So, today we're having Mr. Steven, and he will be speaking to us on being creative with available resources. And the reason for having this section is because of the fact that he has started from scratch, coupled with the fact that he's never had so much like we do. So, okay, we're going live right now. Let's go. Okay. 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 Go live. Okay. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. Accept. Okay. Why we're not seeing you? Okay, very good. Unable to join. Okay, let me. Okay. Okay. Good. Is it good
Hello,
morning? Good
hello.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for everyone for joining. Okay, so we're gonna have Mr. Oliver again. Okay. 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 Thanks everyone for joining. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I am in. We're
Very
here.
good. Thank you so
All
much,
right.
Mr. Z Steve. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. Really grateful. So I think we all know Mr. Steve by now. We have your profile written already. So without much of introduction, he's just gonna go straight to the point. And I would like to say a big thank you to him, and couple the fact that I read his profile and I saw what he's done and how he began from the scratch, and couple the fact that he's been a very great inspiration to young people. And I think you have so much. I believe you have so much that young people can learn from you.
I hope
Thank you
so.
so much.
All right. Thank
Okay,
you for
so
having me,
the
and
floor
thank you
is
for
yours.
everybody who's here. Yeah, so today we're going to just talk about creativity in general, how important it is to the work I do, how it shaped the work I do, and how it never stops. Creativity has no beginning and has no end. Creativity is just part of life. I look at my 7-year-old daughter, and it's like, wow, she has such a creative mind, and it's like, why do so many people lose that? So just yeah, to give you a little recap on what I do, where I came from, just a super fast recap. I'm born and raised in Miami, Florida, to Cuban parents. They came over from Cuba when they were teenagers. Um, I got into still photography when I was in high school. I was the guy with the camera around his neck everywhere I went. And I kind of really fell in love with image making and creating and using pictures. So after that, I transferred to Rochester Institute of Technology, which is in upstate New York here in the US. I studied advertising photography there. I was a transfer student, so I was only there 2 years. I graduated with my bachelor's. I moved to New York City, where I am now for the last 20 years or so. And in New York, I started photo assisting, so I started working for other photographers and learning what they do. And then from there on, I started my own studio doing still photography. Then eventually now I'm doing something completely different, which is working in advertising and TV commercials and video and film. and using all sorts of insane technology and creativity and all that stuff in the work that I do. So it's been a wild ride coming from, this was not what I planned to do when I was in high school. I was like, oh, I like taking pictures. And I think that's one thing I want to talk about today a little bit is that excitement for creating and not worrying about the end result at the beginning, of it. Just do the thing that really inspires you, the thing that you want to do. A lot of high school students, are like, oh, I'd rather be out skateboarding. It's like, okay, well, so, hey, if it challenges you, maybe skateboarding is what you should be doing. But, try to find something that you like really enjoy doing in some way and then follow that path. As I will talk a little bit more about, I kind of created my own path in what I do now. And I didn't think that was possible. I thought I always had to follow the rules. Like you're either an engineer or you're a doctor or you're whatever. And what I do really encompasses so many different things, using engineering, using creativity, using running a business, small business entrepreneurship, you name it. As I tell people, there's kind of three pillars to what I do. There's the business side of things and production. There's the creative side of things, coming up with the ideas, the storytelling, and then there's the technical side of what I do. So that's the cameras, the movement, the robots, all that stuff. So if you guys have seen my work, that all makes sense. If you haven't, check it out follow my Instagram profile, Steve Geralt, and check it out. So yeah, all right. So moving on, that was kind of my super fast history as to kind of where I landed, where I am now. Same thing. I had no intentions on working with robots in my life or working with engineering in any way whatsoever. I actually came from a family of engineers, like my dad, my brother, my uncle, my grandfather. Like all my family was engineers, and I was like, no, I'm going to be the artist. And then somehow ended up still being part engineer. So I guess you can't get away from who you really are and how you're raised. But just to kind of touch on, because I know we have a mix of my fans and your followers all here together. People that know me already know a lot of my story, so I'm not going to dig into it too much more. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of the creative process and how I've learned over the years how to help it shape whatever job you're doing. Not just specifically what I do. We work also. I'm also working on teaching young people as well. We do a lot of sharing and workshops and things like that. If anybody's interested in checking that out, go to thegarageLearning.com is our educational platform. But with that, like the big thing we're trying to do is show that there's room for everybody to be creative. Whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, you're an engineer, whatever it is. We specifically work in the realm of engineering meets creativity, and creativity meets engineering. So, I say I'm kind of 50-50. So I literally, will use creativity and engineering to challenge myself in every way possible. A lot of students I talk to are like, oh, I love what you do. That's so cool. How do I do it? It doesn't look easy, and they're like, what do I do? Where do I go to school? How do I study it? And I say, well, if you really want to do what I actually do every day, I say, go to film school and get a minor in business, because that's, 2/3 of the process. The engineering part is probably easier to hire somebody to do if you don't know how to do it. But not to say if you're not an engineering type individual and you're like, I want to bring more creativity to my engineering, that you can't do that as well. I think there's room. The reality in life is there's a million different paths to get to the end result that you're going for. I think there's not just one path, and everybody's path is different, and that's normal. I think, no matter how many directors and other people that do the same work I do, when we speak to them, they all have a different path entirely. And we're all probably going to be somewhere totally different in 10 years. It's kind of crazy how things change, from day to day. But creativity being the core driver of everything I do. Like the story always leads the engineering, the process, the pitch to the client, whatever it might be. For me, I'm a storyteller first and foremost. And it took me a long time to figure that out, though. I think a lot of people, I'm 20 years into this industry or like forget where they started, and I try to remember. Every year I try to kind of reflect back on how did I get here? Like, I don't, I have no understanding because I did not foresee this. And, with that reflection, I feel, I've realized that like I had to tackle some of the early things first. Like I had to learn the technical stuff too first. So I was like, I went to photography school and I conquered like how camera works and how lights work and all those kinds of things. And that really, if I didn't know that, I couldn't do the next thing, like, so I think a lot of people are like, I want to get to where Steve is right now, like next month, next year, whatever it is. and realize that life is a long road, like to build on your skills takes time, takes practice, and enjoy that journey. That's the thing. It's not like, oh, it's not going to be fun until I do what Steve's doing. Like it's called, it could be fun every single day. You could be excited about what you're doing every single day, whether you're doing a small job or a huge job. Like at the end of the day, you have to enjoy the journey because the journey never ends until you die, basically. So, like, it's not like you reach this level where you're like, oh, now I'm rich and now I don't do anything. No, it's just like even rich people work really freaking hard to stay rich, like, and I'm not rich. So anyway, just keep in mind that, you have to enjoy innovation. You got to enjoy challenging yourself. You have to enjoy the idea of questioning, am I doing the best thing Steve should be doing right now, like every day, like not even just like once a year, like I think you should question every single day, am I putting my best foot forward? Is there something I'm concentrating too much on that I should move off on and work on something else, and try to keep moving forward, whether you're moving an inch a week or you're moving a mile a week. Like realize that any movement forward is getting you closer towards your goal, like it's not about it being an overnight success. Like you need to be like, and this is the biggest thing I struggle with. Like I want results now, like, and the reality is it takes time. Like when I moved to New York, I was like, I'm gonna just like assist photographers for 3 months, and then I'll have my own studio, and then I'll be shooting everything. And it's just like, no, it took 3 years, and that was fast. Honestly, I got really lucky and met some of the right people that helped me out and really trusted and believed in me in what I'm doing. And let's speak to that a little bit too, like speaking about passion. I think beyond creativity, beyond engineering, like nothing is more important than your passion. It's about what drives you. It's the fuel that's in your gas tank. Like if you have no fuel, you're not going to go anywhere. So you need to find the thing that really inspires you, really keeps you going forward, whether it's an electric vehicle or a gas vehicle, whatever it is. Find that spark, find that energy that keeps you going forward. And if you find you've lost that spark, which happens to everybody, I think that's a really important place where you should, try to find the next spark, go explore. And it's really hard because I think most people are like, oh, I just must have to work harder. I must have to work more hours. I must need to like keep beating my head against the wall until I find that next thing. And sometimes the best move is actually to back away and go on a bit of a creative exploration or creative field trip, as I call it, where sometimes I'm like, you know what, I'm not gonna do that. And today I'm gonna go to a museum, I'm gonna go look at a play, I'm gonna go, find inspiration in other things around me. Or if that doesn't work either, sometimes I'll be like, hey, let me go back to where I started and what really got me excited when I started all this. And, like when I was early in my career, I loved doing night photography in like cities and just walking around late at night with my camera and a tripod and just like looking at interesting cityscapes. I always found that the nightscapes of a city is really interesting because it's all designed. There's no nature in that, right? Like we're choosing how we light our environment, and sometimes it's really ugly, but sometimes it can be really interesting too, versus what nature brings us every day with the sun. But I think, going back to your roots, if you do lose that inspiration, is really good, or find the next thing that inspires you. Part of what got me to where I'm at today was, photography is what I loved, and I did photography, and then eventually I got bored of photography. I was just like, still photos alone are not challenging enough. So I'm like, so I started taking classes at night while I was still doing still photography, doing woodworking and metalworking and electronic circuits and Arduino and all these different kinds of classes. And I did that, and it was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. Because, when your hobby becomes your job, you need a new hobby, is what I tell people. Because, I think it's always important to have that hobby, that thing that's inspiring you, that doesn't have to have a clear outcome either, too. I think so many people focus completely on the outcome and not on the journey, as I was talking about. And it's okay to try it. You need to be in a place where it's safe to fail. You know, it's a place where you could explore an idea, a situation, a process, and be like, I could have done woodworking and been horrible at it. I could, who knows? You know, like I learned in TIG welding that I am horrible at TIG welding aluminum, and I'm like, this is just, I don't care about this enough to keep going down that road, and that's okay. Like, learn what you're good at, learn what you're not good at. You know, was a big part of it.
Wow.
You know, so for me, you know, it was really exciting to take these classes with no real end result in light. You know, like some people just start running one day. They're like, I'm going to start running, and then 2 years later, they're running a marathon. You know, like whatever it is, it's just like do the thing that you want to be doing. You know, I feel like if you ever feel trapped doing something you don't want to be doing, I think you definitely need to change directions in your life and find that thing. Not even if you're like, oh, but I'll never make money at that, but maybe you will. You know, like my parents, when I went even to college to study photography, my grandfather, who was a very traditional old Cuban guy, was like, why the hell are you going to go pay $40,000 a year to learn photography? Go take pictures of weddings. You don't need a school or university for that, you know? And, you know, God bless him, he's no longer with us, but, you know, he saw me get pretty far in my career. And I think he was just like surprised every single day. You know, I think, you know, you don't know until you try it. And that's what I guess what I'm telling people is like, don't be afraid to try stuff, you know? You know, I'm not saying say yes to everything like movies that they do, like I say yes to everything, you know, but I'm saying don't be afraid to try things and try new things, because there's nothing I hate more than hearing people say, oh, I can't do that. And it's like, well, why not? Oh, well, I don't know anything about it. Well, learn something about it, and then you can do that. You know, and I think we're in a world right now where no matter where in the globe you are, as long as you have access to a computer and internet, like there's infinite amounts of information out there that you can learn. And I think you don't have to go to a 4-year university to learn what you want. I mean, at you know the Garage Learning, our website, you can learn for us for $30 a month. You can have a subscription that gives you access to all our classes, and you know classes will come over time, and you meet other people. And you know, I think that's the next thing to talk a little bit about too on your people's path in their careers is people have such a huge impact. I mean, and grab onto those people that you meet that you're like, you're a good person. I love working for you, or I love working with you, you know, because like without people, I wouldn't be where I'm at. If people didn't hire me, I would have no business, you know? So I am in the business of working for other people, even though I'm my own boss in the fact that I run my own company, but still without clients, I'm nowhere, you know, at all. So one thing to definitely keep in mind too is that, you know, be good to people and they'll be good back to you. Not every single one of them, but in general, you know, putting your best foot forward for them, you know, and try to keep your head as small as possible. Be grateful for every single job people give you, every single opportunity people give you. You know, I used to send after every job I got, I used to send a handwritten letter to the client being like, thank you so much for, you know, hiring me for this. And they loved it. And it was great. And you know, it's all any business only happens if it has continued business, right? If you have one really good month and nobody hires you for the rest of the year, you're probably not going to stay in business. So you know, these are all things to consider when you're choosing your path, when you're making decisions along your path, no matter what you're trying to do. You know, I'm trying to speak as much as possible, not to just specifically what I do, but what I've learned about life through what I do. That applies to what a lot of different people do in their lives. And also everybody, I just kind of ranted for 20 minutes there. But if anybody has questions for me, please throw them in the chat. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that's joined us so far. I hope you're enjoying this. This is completely open-ended. So anything you want to discuss about creativity and how to do things with what you have access to, which is actually the next thing I want to touch on a little bit is access, right? I talked about the internet and how there's so much information on the internet and things that you could join by doing that. But, you know, people also look at the work that I do. And at this point in my career, yes, we have, you know, millions of dollars of equipment and all this stuff to do the work I did. But there was a point where I didn't have that. And I got here without somebody giving me a bunch of money to do this. Like I built it up over years and years and years and years of hard effort, being smart, being grateful, being creative. So realize that you could start with what you have in your hands, which is your phone, because you're watching us right now. So you have your phone on you right now. You know, I would want to say that like the iPhone or smartphone cameras are probably better than the film camera I used when I started. So you have a leg up. Plus, I mean, with social media, you have access to share your work with the world so incredibly easily. Like I think people take that for granted that didn't live long enough to realize like back when I moved to New York City, I had to literally like have a printed portfolio and had to knock on people's doors, like, make an appointment with a magazine editor to drop off this printed book. And I couldn't show it to anybody else until they were done with it. And they gave me the book back because like they were like, oh, you could drop it off for a week and then pick it up. So it's like I had to have 3 different portfolio books so I could drop it off at least at 3 places at a time, and like pick it up from Esquire magazine, drop it off at Men's Health, pick it up at put it at Food Network magazine, and pick it up, like, and websites were starting to be a little more common, but it was actually kind of not the mainstream way of showing your work, because cameras and phones and like the iPhone didn't exist back then. Just totally dating myself. But whatever the medium is, I always tell people, I'm like, I make images that go in boxes. That's it. It's like the boxes changed over time, from a picture in a magazine to an ad on on an iPad, on a billboard, whatever it is. Like I make images that go in boxes that sell things. That's what I get hired to do. So, whether the next thing is like some holographic thing in 360, then maybe it's not a box anymore. But generally speaking, like images in boxes, what did I do? So something to absolutely keep in mind is, realize that a good story will conquer all. Like if you talk about any good book, any good movie, like beyond the technology that made them, the story has so much to do with it. So whatever you do, if you're in a more analog kind of person versus a big, technologically driven kind of person, realize that over time that's going to change. Whatever you're doing now is not going to be the same 10 years from now. Like it's embrace the fact that the world changes, and hopefully for the better most of the time. And the fact that you want to be part of that journey of the change. You want to be, hey, even better, be the change maker, be the one that drives the evolution, drives the way things change. When I kind of went from you shooting still photos to directing and being a visual engineer, I just did what I thought I should do. It wasn't about what other people thought I should do. I had a bunch of people actually, they were like, I don't know, that burger video, that's a horrible idea. I don't know why you would do that. And I'm like, I think it's going to be great. And you have to know how, like, when to trust your gut and trust what you think is a good idea. And sometimes you'll be right, and sometimes you'll be wrong. Hopefully, you're more right than wrong. But at the end of the day, no adventure, no journey, no project goes without a reward. Whether it's the reward is that you just love like you lost something, or you gain something. You never know. And oh, look, we have some people that have some passions and career questions. But oh yeah, so resources. Sorry, I wanted it. I was headed there and I got sidetracked. But yeah, so talking a little bit about resources, we talked about that. I didn't start with all this gear and everything. I think it's find a way for what you have right now to get you to that next level. So use your iPhone and do jobs for people for $10 or whatever it is until you have enough money you could buy a $500 camera. Use the $500 camera and do jobs for $500 each until you have enough money to buy the $10,000 camera. Like you build that over time, and with that you also build the following of the people that you work with, or the people that believe in your work, and the people that you've proven yourself to them. People are talking about CGI. No, actually, that's a great, when talking about resources, that's a great conversation to have. It's like, hey, if you have a computer with Blender on it and you want to do storytelling in CGI, do that. Like nothing says you have to be a visual engineer. Nothing says you have to do things practically. At the end of the day, they're different art forms, all completely, I would say, like, I think what I do, as much as you can make a similar thing in CGI, they're just two completely different art forms. The process is completely different. Like when a musician plays the violin live in a beautiful amphitheater with amazing sound, and you're 360 degrees in this space, it has one sound. When they play it in a studio and it's recorded and played back, it has a different sound. Same instrument, same process, you know, same, but such a different end result, you know? So realize that, like, you know, even though there's a lot of different ways to get somewhere, use the one that you're really good at, you know, or the one that you have access to. You know, if you're good at CGI, do a CG story, animation, whatever it is, make it crazy, make it awesome. And if someday you want to, you know, you've already built now your storytelling methods, you already learned how you know, how you want to light things, you've learned how that works. Hey, if you could translate that to shooting it for real because you want to, then great, amazing. You know, there's a lot of directors that do what I do that came from, you know, the Maya world and doing animation and doing all that kind of work. So yeah, not to say that that's not a perfectly normal path to go on. But at the end of the day, you know, whether you're doing it for real with robots and whatever, or you're doing it in CG, as I said, the story. It's all about the story. It's all about your vision. It's all about the end result. It doesn't, you know, to me, it doesn't matter how you got there as long as the result is amazing, you know? So, you know, to me, I feel like what speaks naturally to me is touching things and physically doing them. Not to say in 10 years, I might not be directing CG. You know, only, who knows? At the end of the day, it's what, as we kind of started the conversation on, it's all about passion. It's all about excitement. It's all about what you're really super excited about doing at the moment. And don't let things get in the way of that. You know, I think, you know, obviously if you don't have access to something, then use the thing you do have access to. You know, our company name itself, The Garage, came from the idea of a few different things where it's basically, you know, at least in America, like a garage is really the place where you make a mess and you could play around and you could experiment, and there's no judgment in the garage, right? Because you're already in a garage. It's a dirty place. Like there's no, you know, no one's expecting like magical things that you're producing in the garage, but you can create magic and you can learn how to make magic in your garage. And I think that, you know, so much behind the name of our company itself is, you know, to not be afraid to experiment, not be afraid to make a mess. And, you know, if you have to do it somewhere, you know, find out the comfortable space for you to do that. Is that your backyard? Is that in an open field somewhere? Is that in your bathroom, in your tub? You want to throw liquids together, make a big splash, whatever, you know, whatever you want to do. You know, there's no limit to where your creativity could get you, you know, and I think realize that, you know, I'd rather have, you know, 10 really creative people in a room with me than 10 specialists in a room with me that are specialists at a certain thing. You know, like at the end of the day, you know, yeah, I mean, not to say that there's not a time for a specific specialist, but not when I'm trying to innovate, not when I'm trying to create something different, trying to tell a story that has never been told before. You know, right now I do mostly all food and beverage and product videos that, you know, hopefully the story they're telling you is like, this thing is cool, buy it, eat it, whatever it is. Not to say that someday my stories might not change. You know, I might not want to tell more touching stories. You know, I've done some pro bono jobs, you know, talking about the elections in the US and talking about the floods from hurricanes and climate change and other things like that, which is a chance that I get to use my storytelling method, even using powders and other things to tell powerful stories. So use what is comfortable to you, you know, the medium that speaks to you, whether it's using your hands or using a computer, and use that to help define the stories you tell, and, you know, make sure that you're doing, you know, you're challenging yourself. You know, like too many people, like I feel there's two kinds of people in the world. There's a type that are like happy with the work that they've done and be like, oh, I did such a good job. I'm really good at my job. And then there's the people that are like, yeah, I did all right, and I'm going to keep working hard to try to make it better. And, you know, I'm that second type of person. I've never, like any job I've done the next day, I'm like, I could have done it better. You know, like I'm never happy with the work I do. Not to say it's not good. I'm just saying I always feel like I always get asked like, what's the favorite job you've ever done? I'm like, it's the one that I'm doing tomorrow. That's going to challenge me in a new way. Like it's the excitement in that problem solving, in how I learn by doing and getting, you know, ideally getting paid for it, which is even better. Because I think, you know, learning is like what inspires me more than anything, you know? So like if I didn't have to, you know, make a living, I would literally just take classes every day of my life. I think like, well, alternate taking classes with time to play with whatever I learned, and then taking more classes, and then, you know, because just like it's so exciting to challenge and learn new things. And, you know, at the end of the day, I say everything you've learned in your life is part of your toolbox that you carry around with you, and you never know when you might need one of those random tools that's at the bottom of that thing that you haven't used in a long time. You know, in any job, right? Like whether, you know, you took a photography class and now you work, you know, doing something completely different, you never know when those skills you've learned, which is that tool in your toolbox, you might want to pull it out and be like, oh, I'm actually the perfect person for this project, because let's say you're like a lawyer or something and like you're defending somebody like that had something go on with a photo shoot or whatever, and you're like, oh, actually, because I took this photography class, I have an understanding beyond my legal knowledge of this aspect. I have an understanding of the thing that actually happened during it, and it can make you a better thing. Just like I don't know if people know that, like patent attorneys actually have to have an engineering degree also, because they're doing law revolving around patents, which is a very technical thing, that they're required to actually have a degree in engineering on top of their legal degree so that they know how to speak to all that, you know. So it's that same kind of idea of, you know, mixing two things together. You don't have to define yourself by just being one thing. Like, you're not just like, I'm just a photographer or I'm just a lawyer. It's like, no, you could do a lot of different things. And I feel the current, you know, millennial generation is all about doing everything. So I think that's really exciting. I think sometimes it gets hard to focus and narrow themselves a little bit. They jump around a little bit, but, you know, I think that's okay. I didn't know what I wanted to do until a few years after high school, and, you know, after doing some college classes and doing some other things. And I still, you know, and that thing that I decided I wanted to do wasn't what I'm doing today anyway. So it's constantly evolving, you know. So yeah, with that, let's, you know, open up to also questions. If anybody has any questions about anything I've asked, I'm happy to answer them.
So I think I have a few questions before we have a few questions, and one of the questions
Let's do it.
I think one of the questions I believe a lot of people actually asking now, you know, so they saw some people have seen your work and so we're like, whoa, did you do this? Did you do it? And everything, and then they're surprised, you know. So the question they're asking is, how should he be able to actually maximize resources around them, especially with the fact that there are not so much of opportunities around them that you presently have. So right now they have a big vision like you have right now because they've seen you, and then they're trying to actually expand their minds too. So, but they don't know it started somewhere. So the question is, how should they start with the little they have, and how can they give such quality like you were given, even with the little they haven't?
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Good question. I mean, just to talk about the quality side of it, that's going to be challenging. You know, you have to build up to that. Like, you're not going to just go from, you know, without the resource, you're not going to get to that quality, but it takes years to get to that quality on the storytelling and the other stuff anyway. So don't worry about it. Just start with what you have right now. And with that, I'm saying your phone camera and using what you have around the house. You know, everybody has food and beverage products around them all over the world at all times, you know. So just choose, literally go into your cabinet. Oh, there's a can of beans. Great. I'm going to make a story about this can of beans that's really good. And I might work for the next month trying to make a really good story about this can of beans. You know, like it's as easy as just choosing one place to start. And then that will inspire the next thing and the next thing. And hey, if you can't find another inspiration, open that cabinet again. Oh, look, there's rice too. Here we go. Let's make a story about rice. And then, as I was talking a little bit earlier, share that with the world. Like, put it on social media, you know, share it with your friends, make a website and start building. You know, that's your first thing. And then there's the next thing. And then maybe you put out a video and it got, you know, 10 likes. And then the next video got 30 likes. And the next one got 1,000 likes. You know, like I didn't get to 400,000 followers overnight. You know, it's been many, many years, you know, and it started really slow. And I think that's the hardest part, right? Like, it's hard to see you're even moving forward at the beginning, right? You're like, I did this thing and I feel like it's great, and nothing, right? And it's just like, yeah, the only way to get there is to just keep going. Just like, who cares about that blind, you know, like, don't listen to yourself or look to anybody else, and just keep going. And hey, after like 2 years of busting your ass at it and you're still nowhere, okay, maybe you should be doing something else with your life. But I think you have to, be realistic with yourself. Have you been busting your ass at it? Like, have you been really pushing yourself incredibly hard every day, 365 days a year to really do this thing? And B, have you shared it? Have you been putting out new content every week, every day, every month? You know, like, I think, you know, it has to build on itself. Like, I equate it to plants and watering, farming and watering plants. Like
Wow.
the first thing you do is you plant a seed, right? Actually, yeah, maybe first you dig a hole, but either way, that's the first process. And when you're digging a hole, you're so far away from seeing a plant or fruit or whatever it is, right? You know, so then you put the seed in the ground, you cover it, and you're like, oh, now what's happening? And it takes 2 weeks to see anything come out of the ground, maybe, depending on what it is. And with that, you got to water it, you got to water it, you got to water it. You know, like it's just like that. And then it starts growing, and you're like, oh, I just planted an apple tree seed. Well, it might take you 10 years to get an apple off that tree. You know, like realize that it takes a lot of time, and but you have to, if you stop watering that seed, the tree dies and you're starting all over again. So like, realize that that's kind of the type of commitment. It's a lifelong commitment to get there, you know. And I think starting with what you have right now is all you need. Whatever you have right now is all you need to get started. And then from there, you could try to keep building up, you know. And that's literally how I started my business. It was like, I did the first job that paid me $100. And then from that, I was able to make enough money to buy, you know, another lens or whatever. And then I did the next job, and I gave me another, and I saved up some money. Then I bought the next thing. And then, you know, and it's not just the stuff, it's the process of the business, and it's the process of the creativity, and that's the thing. It all, there's no jump starting all of it. Like if, for the most, you know, for somebody that's never done what I did, if I was like, hey, here's my studio, here's all the stuff in it, go, you know, you have access to it all. They're not gonna know what to do because they haven't gone through that journey. You know, like you know, you can't just shortchange those things. There's no skipping the line. You know, like, yes, there's ways to accelerate it. You know, let's say by doing that, and then, oh wow, okay, after a year you might be in a better place than if you didn't have that. It might take you 3 years, but you're still going to be smarter for having done it the slow way. You know, like at the end of the day, it just takes time. It's that journey that's such an important part of all of it. You know, so it takes time to build that up, and don't look at that as a negative thing. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I got to do all this hard work, and like, oh, I'm impatient. No, like, be excited about that. It's going to take time, and be surprised if it goes faster than you think. But base the idea that, like, hey, I'm starting this and I have no idea when I'm going to see an apple on this tree, you know, but I'm going to keep watering this thing. I'm going to keep, you know, taking care of it in the winter, and I'm going to make sure there's no bugs on it, and I'm going to, you know, baby it, you know, so, you know, all things to completely keep in mind.
Wow, thank you so much. Wow, thank you. That's really powerful. So we're gonna ask, okay, what we want to do now? We want to make this section short so that we have a lot of young people watching this, so that they're inspired, and then they really can learn something within a short period of time. And if you want to learn more, I would advise you to actually check the website, The Garage, and then get more details there. But let me ask the question we have here. Before we have these questions we have here, one of the questions I want to ask, and I believe it's everywhere, it's every field where everyone is going through, and that's the process, and having to be patient with the process. And when do you know when you should step out? When do you know you should step forward? When do you know you should keep pressing? So this is it. So when social media right now, where we see a lot of things going on, people doing all of things, and then people are really tempted to want to do something because it feels good and it looks good, and they feel, oh, this is good, I need to do it. And it's confusing for people who can even be good at photography, but because they see someone who's acting, and then the person is so popular, and they want to be like an actor because they feel this is good. Now, the question is this: in the phase of your life, at least any stage in your life, did you ever think that, oh no, this is not what I want to do, or this is what I want to do? And how were you able to balance the fact that you are not seeing results at certain points in life, and at the same time, how did you realize that you needed to step up? Or when did you feel like, did you ever feel like, oh, I need to stop this because I'm not seeing results? So how were you able to balance it?
Right. How do you define when to, you know, call it a failure or call it something you have to move on from, right? You know, is kind of what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think that's where, you know, a lot of it is you have to trust your gut, you know, and just give yourself, like, question that thing. Did I try long enough? Did I try hard enough? Did I really exhaust everything in this idea? You know, because, yeah, and that's one of the hardest things to decide, right? You know, I think, you know, for any project, anything, whatever it is, it's like, it should not be counted in days. You know, that's the number one thing I would say, and probably not in weeks, maybe in months, depending on what it is you're trying to do. Most likely, most things, you have to give yourself years, you know. And I think, let's say you're an actor and you're like, I keep auditioning and I keep auditioning and I don't get the job, and I keep auditioning and I don't get the job. you know, and I think, you know, that's a little hard in that it's more of a subjective thing. Like, yes, there's things you could practice in acting, and there's things, you know, I'm not an actor, so I don't know enough about it, but, you know, I'm sure there's a certain limit, you know, like if you're not getting hired just because of how you look, then you might just take longer until you find that perfect job that hires you. You know, like, you know, think about, there's a lot of unattractive people that have huge TV shows on TV, you know, but somehow they got there, right? You know, it's not always about, you know, that. It's about once again, it's all about your passion for it. Like, how badly do you want to do it? Do you want to do it so bad that you're gonna, you know, work for 10 years as an extra on jobs and auditioning and whatever and doing all this stuff, and you're just not going to give up? It might take 20 years. Like, do you love it that much? You know, like, I think, you know, it's part of the challenge of it, you know. Or do you take it on yourself and be like, look, hey, no TV commercial or no TV show wants to hire me. I'm going to find a director. I'm going to write a story myself, or I'm going to find a writer, and we're going to shoot our own indie film, and I'm going to star in it, you know, like, and do that for free, or I'm going to pay for it myself from my day job working at Starbucks or whatever it is. Like, you know, once again, how badly do you want it? You know, that's really what it comes down to. Because, you know, the person that could, you know, be persistent and be patient and persevere is the one that will get there. You know, like you know, I wrote an article a few years ago actually about that. Was like passion, patience, and perseverance in trying to be a creative person. You know, like I could have done my burger video and like nothing could have happened from it, and be like, great, well, I did that, awesome. Now I'm going to keep trying something else, and I'm going to do something else until I got there. I mean, when I started photography, you know, I was just snapping pictures away, and, you know, it took a while before I was able to find, you know, somebody to actually hire me to do that. So realize that it, you know, no matter what you're doing, it's your passion and your just inner dialogue with yourself as to how much you really want to do this or not, you know.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Steve. So now we're going to ask two questions from you, and then we're going to end this session. So the first question is, okay, the first one was this. Who was your favorite mentor or teacher? Who was your favorite mentor, teacher?
Favorite mentor, teacher. That's hard because it's like I've had so many in my life that like were like in high school, you know, the yearbook teacher, because we had a high school yearbook, you know, that I was part of that team, and like the teacher of that really inspired, like really said, yeah, Steve, go try photography. Yeah, you know, try to use the darkroom and, you know, figure that out. And he was like incredibly supportive of me in my photography. You know, my parents were incredibly supportive of me going away to college to learn photography.
Wow.
In photography school, there was a bunch of amazing teachers that challenged me, supported me. And then same thing with clients. There was so many, like my first clients that hired me that trusted in me because like I had never shot a job for a client before, and they're willing to take that chance on me.
Wow.
They're, you know, just as much as they encouraged me, they also taught me along the way on how to do it as a business and how to work with it. I learned also all the photographers I assisted for an internship and all that stuff. They were, once again, I see the result of where I'm at today as a combination of all the people that I've met over the years and all the information I've learned and all the people that did me a favor or that helped me as I helped them, you know. So I can't pinpoint to just one person, but I would say realize that there's people all around you that are willing to help you most of the time.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Steve. Okay, so we're going to come to an end of this section, but before we come to an end of this section, this is the last question we ask every speaker before we let them go. And the question is this: you've been through a lot of things. You've gone through phases of your life. You've begun from this very little, and this is where you are right now. What advice would you give to young people all over the world right now, especially in Africa? And what advice? What is that person thing that you wish you knew better? You wish you want a younger person of yourself to actually know?
Yeah, I would say, you know, especially if you're coming where you have not access to a lot of things, and you believe though that you're meant for greater things. I think is building your self-confidence is such an important part of the process, because there's millions of people in the world, billions of people in the world that they're going to say, no, you can't do that. No, I don't believe that you're capable of that. No, you know, there's a lot of doors that seem to be closed, but you got to keep trying till you find the doors that are open. And then once you get through that first door, find the next door and find the next door, and realize that even though you know, history has taught you that certain things aren't normally what, but if you believe in it, you could change the world. You know, like I think at the end of the day, no matter who you are, where you are in the world, if you are dedicated enough to it, you could change your situation. You could change around, you know, and don't put it on other people to change your situation either. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to ask, you know, 500 people to see if somebody will help me. It's like, well, start helping yourself too. You know, start working on your skills, start working on what you have access to first, so that you have something to even show somebody if you're like, hey, can I get an internship? Look, I've been shooting these videos myself and I've done this, you know, like there's a difference, you know, between just asking for help and showing that you earn the right to get that help, you know, like, and I think some people might be like, oh, that's not the nicest thing, but it's true. It's like, if the most passionate person that knocks on my door looking for a job is the one I hire, you know, like it's not always the most experienced person. It's a person that truly wants to be here every day, that truly is excited about the work we do. You know, obviously they need to have a base level of skills. That's what I'm saying. Don't just sit around until somebody says yes. You need to have built those skills and constantly be building your skills and learning. Start your own YouTube channel, whatever it is, things that you could do basically for free, to start doing those things. And then also don't be afraid to be looking out in the world and you know, set your bar high, you know, like, hey, this is what I want to be. I'm going to be shooting videos like Steve, you know, and I'm going to try to do that. And, you know, technology is only making it easier for people with no access to have access. You know, before, when I started, you needed a dark room and film, and you had to buy, for every picture I took, it cost money because I had to like buy the film and the camera, and then I had to develop it and make prints from it. Now making images is free if you already have a phone, you know, like, so realize that, you know, it's easier for you to start now than it was for me to start. So, and the cost is way less as far as initial investment to get going.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Steve. And thank you for everyone who's joined. Thank you so much. I'm very, very grateful for this section. Really, really grateful. So we're going to be ending the section here. We're going to let Mr. Steve leave. And I want to say thank you. Get like 3 thank you or 4 thank you before we let Mr. Steve go. Just type it. Let's say thank you, Mr. Steve. Just say thank you before we let him go. I'm waiting for that before he goes. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
okay?
And if anybody's interested, I'm actually doing another live event in 45 minutes. But you could look at my stories. You could find the link. There's a Zoom link that you have to sign up for. It's part of Jägermeister's Save the Night campaign that they've had me do these live classes once, you know, a month or every couple of weeks. So if anybody's interested in that, that's going to be a Zoom live class about how to charge for your services, estimating jobs and stuff. It's a little more very specific into what I do, but there's some interesting information for anybody that wants that. And there's already some people that are like, great, I'll already be there. So for those people, I'll see you. But no, thank you so much for having me. I hope that people gained something from this. It looks like we had a lot of people come on and come off, so we'll see. But yeah, everybody just keep moving one foot in front of the other, and, you know, believe in yourself.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Steve. Bye, sir.
All right. Take care, everybody. All right.
Take care. Bye.